We are hardwired to fear the dark, the isolated woods, the empty alleys at midnight. We believe monsters lurk out there, far from the safety of our homes. But what if I told you the worst monster humanity has ever known didn't break in through a window? He knocked on the front door, smiled, and took a seat in the living room. He drank tea with his victims, patted the father on the back, and smiled at the mother before stealing the most precious thing they had. In the spring of 1928, the Budd family opened their door to human terror incarnate. They welcomed him, fed him, and trusted him. This is the story of how the devil can wear the disguise of a sweet old man. New York City, 1928. Behind the glamour of the Roaring Twenties, countless families were fighting just to survive. The Budd family was one of them. Albert and Delia worked tirelessly to provide a decent life for their children. Their eldest son, Edward, desperate to help his parents, placed a simple job-seeking ad in a local newspaper. He had no idea that this small ad was an open invitation to death. On May 28th, an elderly man knocked on their door. He introduced himself as Frank Howard. He was a slender man with thinning gray hair, a neatly trimmed mustache, and eyes that seemed calm, even peaceful. He claimed to be a wealthy farmer from Farmingdale, saying he saw Edward's ad and came specifically to offer the strong young man a lucrative job. Howard was incredibly polite. He spoke with a refined vocabulary and showed exaggerated generosity. That evening, he even treated the family to strawberries and cream. But while the family celebrated their son's new job, Old Man Howard's eyes were locked onto something else entirely. He wasn't looking at the young man he came to hire. His cold gaze was inspecting the light of the house. 10-year-old Grace. To Howard, little Grace, in her pure innocence, wasn't a child. She was prey. Over the next few days, Howard became a close friend of the family. He earned everyone's absolute trust with the demonic brilliance that only a true psychopath possesses. Then, on Sunday, June 3rd, he set his final trap. Howard claimed he was attending his young niece's birthday party nearby. He looked at the mother, Delia, with his usual warm smile and asked politely, "Do you mind if I take Grace with me? I promise I'll have her back before dark." She'd have such a wonderful time with the other children. Delia, who viewed him almost as a grandfatherly figure, agreed without hesitation. She dressed Grace in her beautiful white dress. Delia stood at the door, waving as her daughter walked away, hand in hand with the kind old man. The sun set. Darkness swallowed New York City, the streets emptied, and the ticking of the clock began to pound like nails into a mother's heart. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, midnight. The kind man never returned, and Grace vanished into the shadows of the metropolis, as if the earth had split open and swallowed her whole. The family's life flipped into a waking nightmare. The NYPD launched one of the most massive manhunts in the city's history. But the first devastating blow came when detectives uncovered the bitter truth. There was no wealthy farmer named Frank Howard. The address he gave the family was fake. The man himself was an illusion. Days turned into weeks, months, and then years. Imagine waking up every single day for 6 years, staring at your daughter's empty bed, not knowing if she is hungry, terrified, or dead. Despair began to eat away at the family's soul. The police effectively closed the file. It was a cold case, but the monster was watching from afar, and he was preparing his final psychological kill strike. In November 1934, After 6 years of crushing hopelessness, an envelope arrived at the Budd residence. It was written in poor, sloppy handwriting, yet somehow familiar. When the mother opened the letter, she didn't find a ransom demand. She didn't find an apology. She found details that the human mind simply cannot process. The letter was from the killer himself. In those cursed lines, he revealed his true identity and the place he had taken Grace, an abandoned, rotting shack known as Wisteria Cottage. The letter wasn't just a confession, it was a sadistic display of terror. The killer described, with cold blood and carefully chosen words, exactly how he ended Grace's life in the dark, and how he savored every second of that nightmare. The letter was designed for one purpose only, to shatter whatever was left of a grieving mother's sanity. But the monster's arrogance was his downfall. The envelope carrying that horrific letter bore a small, rare emblem belonging to a chauffeurs association, the tiny thread that allowed brilliant Detective William King to track him down. The man who called himself Frank Howard was finally arrested. His real name was Albert Fish, known in the annals of true crime as the Brooklyn Vampire, the Boogeyman. When he was sentenced to die in the electric chair, he showed zero remorse. He merely smiled and said it would be a thrilling experience. Albert Fish wasn't a monster with fangs and claws. He was a frail old man in a neat suit with a polite smile. And that is what makes the story of Grace Budd the most terrifying of all, because it reminds us of one inescapable truth. The most dangerous demons are the ones we invite into our own homes.